Today on the show, we will be having a war veteran that's here to tell us a little bit about his experience. What's your name, sir?
Major Dave Patterson.
All right, nice meeting you.
Pleasure.
What year did you deploy to Iraq?
I have two deployments to Iraq. One was in 2005 and the other in 2009.
All right, so we have a well-decorated major here with us today. What war was that exactly?
Operation Iraqi Freedom.
All right. We thank Major Patterson to take the time out of his busy schedule today to join us on the show. How did you feel about the war?
Oh, there's a lot of feelings about the war. I joined after 9/11 had happened, so that was a large part of why I joined the military. I felt the U.S. had a good cause, and I wanted to provide my support in any capacity I could.
What were your family and friends' feelings about you deploying?
Well, naturally, the family doesn't want their child to deploy, likewise with their friends, but they were supportive and they understood the mission and were very supportive of me during my deployments.
In what ways did the war change your activities and habits throughout your schedule?
I'm not sure so much that my habits had changed. Now, granted, while deployed, naturally my habits were changed, but while being back here in the States, being overseas gives you a real good appreciation for how good we have it here in this country. And so a lot of the little things you take for granted, you kind of pay attention to when you're back here in the States.
Did you worry that our side might win while you were overseas?
I'm sorry,
Did you worry that our side might not win?
No. The initial invasion of Iraq was pretty quick. We removed Saddam Hussein in a rather timely fashion. The hard part would be the stability operations in which we conducted post-Saddam removal and the train up of the Iraqi forces. But we won the war. The stability operations, that's an ongoing process that required our attention. And there's no winning or losing of that in that capacity. But we did win the war, and I never had any doubts about that.
All right. What was the climate like whenever you were over there?
It's pretty warm. Iraq is pretty hot, although Kuwait, which is where we were staged prior to moving into Iraq, is a lot hotter. Funny story though, while in Baghdad one year, we did have a hailstorm, which was pretty interesting. But the climate's a lot hotter than it is than we're used to here in the States. And even when it gets to about the 70 degrees, it feels cool because of the drastic shift and change in the temperature.
Did you have worthwhile experiences because of the war?
Absolutely. A lot of the friendships, the camaraderie for, the shared sacrifice of my friends, my peers, my bosses. You really see the best of people when you're put in a situation outside of your comfort zone and you're doing things as a collective group that's larger than individual efforts.
What social activities were you involved in at work and after work?
Is this while deployed?
Yeah.
Or?
Yes.
I didn't have much social activities. On the weekends I would my driver and I would take our Humvee to the other side of base to go get a coffee. That was kind of the highlight of our week. There were opportunities for social activity. I worked out quite a bit. I spent a lot of time in the gym on my free time, but otherwise the activities on the bases, they had salsa night regularly for the troops. The morale, wellness, and recreation would put on shows and provide activities for the soldiers, but I was pretty busy, so I didn't get to take advantage of all of that.
What were some of the first changes in your life after the war started?
Well, again, not having joined until after 9/11, that 9/11 was the reason why. So in 2003, when we went to Iraq, I joined in 2004, so the war had a dramatic impact on my life. I wouldn't be sitting here had the war not taken place.
Do you know anyone who was killed or wounded in the war?
Thankfully, we were very fortunate for both deployments. There were no one in our unit that was killed in action. We did have a few close calls with some improvised explosive devices detonating, but thankfully the vehicles we were in were able to withstand the attacks, and we did not have any fatalities. Sadly, the only losses of soldiers in my units were from back in the States for motorcycle accidents and suicides.
What effect did the war have on your physical and mental health?
don't know. I know physically I try to remain physically fit as a result of my job, and mental health I don't anticipate having any issues. I'm very fortunate to not have PTSD or traumatic brain injury, but so mentally I don't have any issues.
How did you entertain yourself outside of work?
Well, deployed, we have shops right there on the base that sell movies by the discs, and we would watch entire series and episodes of shows on some of our downtime. So it wouldn't be uncommon for an afternoon of not having to work to watch 5 or 6 episodes of a sitcom or some TV show that we purchased off of a local vendor.
What different responsibilities did you have to take on because of the war?
Well, I just being a lieutenant during the first deployment, I was a maintenance platoon leader, and then I was a maintenance company executive officer, and along with that is just caring for the soldiers, the leadership roles and responsibilities of caring for roughly 36 soldiers in the platoon, and then when I was as a company executive officer, over 100 soldiers, and then also leading convoy logistics patrols from bases to deliver supplies to other units operating within Baghdad.
Tell me about corresponding via letters with friends and family while you were deployed.
Ironically, we did back in 2005 still did write some letters. Email was around, so naturally email correspondence was the predominant method to communicate. We did have cell phones over there with pretty poor reception.
That's all we have.
But I have so much more to say.
That's all we have for tonight. Thank you, folks. Again, David Patterson.
My pleasure. Thank you for
having
having
me
me
on the show.
And that's Talk Time with Colby Martin.